Let's gab this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is Saturday,
Yes.
July the 3rd.
Which is why we're much later, because we're having a very, very relaxed morning. We
Yes, we are.
slept in, had family breakfast, took care of a few things, been gabbing for a little while.
Been kicking around the Declaration of Independence, which is officially adopted historically tomorrow by the Continental Congress. July 2nd is when they voted to declare independence, and then they sent Jefferson and Adams and a few others to go write it. They appointed a committee. So next time you think committees aren't worth anything, that's how that got done. If you want to be challenged about American history and choices that we made, look at the stuff that was in the first draft of the Declaration of Independence that then got cut out. For those who might suggest that, well, it took a while to come to the right conclusion on slavery in the U.S., the right conclusion on slavery was in the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. How it is that Thomas Jefferson wrote that while also enslaving people and such is kind of an interesting, is a separate question that you need to hit a Jefferson biographer for. But it's very, it's just an interesting thing that one of the original parts of the Declaration of Independence actually jabbed at King George for allowing slavery to continue in
And that was one of the
America.
reasons
That was one of their reasons
declaring
to declare independence.
Was because of this evil he had done.
He had perpetuated and allowed this evil, but they cut it out. And then we had to fight a war again later for it. Sometimes, if you're going to go ahead and take a huge step to do the right thing, and you need to take a second step right there with it, go ahead and try to take them both. They did the right thing in declaring independence, but they put off another problem that their grandchildren and great-grandchildren had to fight another war over. So, just as an observation, and that we still deal with the side effects of. So, they did the right thing, and this is how you get to the end, and all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable human rights. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Originally, that was all men.
Originally, that was all men. Sorry, babe.
Yeah, well, we came later. That's just the reality of it.
You get to pursue happiness.
I'm happy with you.
Yeah.
And that really was all men.
Yes.
That definitely was men, not men and women. Sometimes we discuss that structure and discuss how, men does deal with, everybody, all humanity. But in that situation, yes, women were still.
Yeah.
But they did originally deal with slavery positively, and then changed that.
Yeah, change that. So, and there you get, and this is where you can get historians chasing each other in circles for a long, long time. Some of these states wouldn't sign on to the Declaration of Independence with that statement about slavery in it.
Mm-hmm.
So are we better off to have compromised then to make the first step and then to sort it out later? Or should we have not compromised at all and let the chips fall where they may? And it's very, very easy to sit here in 2021 in liberty, with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness available to us, and pass judgment on 1776 and say, well, they should have done this instead. And yes, in an ideal world, or in the laboratory, or in the thought experiment, maybe they should have. But in the real world on the ground, we always end up making compromises about what we need to do. Or maybe not always, but we very often do. Mm-hmm. We very often hit spots where we go, well, I'd like this, but this is the best I can do right now. And that's where we are, for example, in fighting for right to life for the unborn. Is we'd like we'd like it to be unheard of that you would put a child to death in the womb. But we're not there yet. But can we get to when you can detect a heartbeat from another human being? Maybe you shouldn't just kill it for convenience. Hey, let's get there. Let's get where we can get. There are points along the way that are pathways to that. So anyway, that's And what will history judge us for, 100 years from now? Well, you could have fixed this problem.
If you had done this.
Why didn't you do this? Because all you can do is decide based off of what you can see. And so, 1776, we decided, these colonies of right, are and of right ought to be, independent and free states. And a lot of folks laid down their lives, especially percentage comparison, although strangely enough, less than 10% of colonists were actively involved in the revolution.
Wow. Which makes it even more of a miracle that it was, that.
And as much as we jab at France, if it hadn't been for France, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
That's a reality. Yeah. If it hadn't been for France, it wouldn't have worked. And if General Howe hadn't been in charge for the first year, it wouldn't have worked. If Cornwallis had been in charge from the beginning, 1777, it would have been over. But anyway, Howe had this bad habit of wanting to sleep comfortably every night, including being involved with his mistress on a regular basis, and so therefore he didn't advance the army very rapidly. Cornwallis wanted to get home to his wife. His wife was in England. He didn't feel like he should go home until it was over. And so, at a couple of points, when Washington had to retreat from here and from there before the Americans had developed enough discipline in the military to stand there and face down the bayonets of the British Army, there were a couple of points where, had the British Army pushed on even just 2 more hours that day, it probably would have wiped out the entire colonial army, what there was of it.
But instead, Howe wanted to get...
Instead, Howe's like, all right, that's good enough for today. We had a victory, and we only had like 2 casualties, and so this will be well received at court. So let's just stop. And Cornwallis was like, stop? And Clinton was like, stop? No, we don't need to stop. I mean, it got bad enough that they almost, if they hadn't been military officers and therefore prevented from doing so, they would have been dueling each other over the situation. But you could not challenge a superior officer to a duel. Gotcha. It wasn't permitted. Otherwise, it's a quick path to promotion. Well, I'm going to challenge him to a duel.
Yeah, that would do it.
Yeah. Anyway.
And then he needs somebody to take his place.
Yeah, that's right. So, you couldn't do that. But anyway, just the American Revolution is a fascinating study. And again, without the French,
Well, and most wars are fascinating studies because you see all of the bizarre things that happened that actually ended up determining the outcome. And so, yeah, it's just an interesting...
The American Civil War goes crazy different if somebody doesn't wrap his cigars in a copy of the written order from Lee and then loses them in the process of battle. And a couple of soldiers on the Union side pick up and are like, hey, cool, expensive cigars. And one of them, the only one who was literate, who could actually read, apparently, according to one version of the story, reads the first line and goes, we should take this to the captain, who then gets it up, and it's the general order for the disposition of forces at Antietam. And as a result, the North is able to fight. Antietam's really a draw, tactically speaking, but it was close enough to a victory. It's the first time the Union doesn't run away, which allows Lincoln to feel confident about putting forth the Emancipation Proclamation, thus making the war plainly about slavery. Mm-hmm. Before that, the war is about slavery, but it's not about slavery. Right. It's about states' rights.
The argument is states' rights.
Yeah, but states' rights to do what? Own slaves. But after the Emancipation Proclamation, it's plainly about slavery. Well, the British Empire had banned slavery some 30 years before. Before the Emancipation Proclamation, Her Majesty's government was, or His Majesty's government, it's not Queen Victoria yet, the British government is strongly inclined to join the war on the southern side, partly because they think that the South, in the devastation after the war, will then choose to return to the Commonwealth and be part of the empire again.
In which case, the slavery... Well, they had abolished the slave trade.
And slave owning.
Slave owning by that time.
By that time as well.
First was slave trade, and then
slave holding. But that was their hope and their thought. But once it became plainly about slavery, several voices in Parliament said, why would we fight to take into the empire a nation? Why would we fight to support a nation that owned slaves after we went to all this trouble and spent a lot of money? Because the British compensated slave owners to liberate the people they had enslaved. And the British also paid out to the Navy when the Navy stopped a ship that was filled with humans, with slaves as cargo. They actually paid the naval personnel prize money for that, as if they had captured a treasure ship and then liberated the enslaved people. And so it's like, wait a minute, this is going to cost us a lot of money if we do this. And then once it was definitely about slavery, it's like, no, we can't do that. So without somebody dropping an orders packet, having used it to protect his precious little cigars, without that, maybe the British join in the war, which means you get invaded from Canada and you get invaded from the British West Indies. You get military support. You get naval support. The South gets strangled by a blockade, which they would not have. The American Navy wasn't strong enough to enforce against the British Navy in 1863. Mm-hmm. Little things. The world hinges on small actions by small groups of people, far more so than we realize.
And yet we diminish the little things, and we say that we've got to be great and big and do huge things and be remembered for all of these magnificent things that we've done. But I mean, who remembers a packet of cigars being dropped?
What's the name of the guys who picked them up?
But it is little things, and so when we start to think that our lives are insignificant, we've got to remember that even the little things leave behind a flow of events that can totally and completely orchestrate the course of history.
Yeah. So, and small groups. Again, generally speaking, probably no more than 10% actively involved in the Revolutionary War. You got a small group that's willing to do? Yeah.
Makes a difference.
Makes a difference. Okay, so we were going to not talk about the history side of things?
But we did anyway. We should probably read this now.
That's what you get. I'm a historian. Meet me, O Christ, in this stillness of morning. Move me, O Spirit, to quiet my heart. Mend me, O Father, from yesterday's harms. From the discords of yesterday, resurrect my peace. From the discouragements of yesterday, resurrect my hope. From the weariness of yesterday, resurrect my strength. From the doubts of yesterday, resurrect my faith. From the wounds of yesterday, resurrect my love. Let me enter this new day, aware of my need, and awake to your grace, O Lord. Amen. Amen. So, our official topic for the day was supposed to be about cooking in the summer and trying to keep the kitchen cool.
Yep.
Eat salads.
Oh yeah, that's your solution. He doesn't like salad. And I still want some protein, even if I eat a salad. I enjoy salads, but...
Okay, so since that pathway doesn't work, cold cut sandwiches.
So we've talked before about our air fryer. We've discovered our air fryer, and you can bake in it.
Yes, you can.
And it puts off some heat, but not nearly as much as the oven does. And so an air fryer is one option. Crock pot is a great option, and one of the things that you can do, you can even do pre-cook something like a lasagna, cut it into pieces so that you're heating the oven once, and then you pre-cook a big one, and then you divide it up into the number of portions that you need to feed your family. Stick it in a bag that you can seal very, very well. We use
We use Food Saver bags, and we replaced our Food Saver most recently with the Amazon Basics model, which seems to be working.
It seems to be working fine. So you don't have to buy Food Saver brand, or there's another brand that was around when I grew up, and I can't remember.
Seal a Meal.
Seal a Meal. Thank you. Just gone blank on what that is. But that type of thing. Seal it up really well. Use the there's usually a dry setting and a moist setting. Use the moist setting, get those seals really, really good and solid. And then what you can do is you can fill up your crock pot with water and drop that bag in and just let it slowly heat. You can also do it, we've talked about the immersion circulator before.
So you can also do that with an immersion circulator.
But the key is to find alternatives. And even with that, if you still want that crisp top like I do, so you stick it in the oven under the broiler for 5 minutes, but you're not having the oven on for an hour to cook the lasagna or whatever other
hour, 2 hours.
Yeah.
So those are some options. We just recently obtained an Instant Pot, which also does not produce the external heat.
Right.
So some of the things that you want to look at some of these small appliances when you're dealing with places, and you can go overboard. Okay.
Oh yeah, easily.
You can go overboard
easily.
But you want to look at some of these small appliances that, in all honesty, seal in better. And look for multitaskers. A crock pot, there's so many different things you can do with a crock pot. An Instant Pot, there's a lot of things you can do with that, half of which we haven't yet discovered.
We haven't even tried. Well, we have had a rice cooker. We're thinking about, as soon as we get all the dynamics of cooking rice in the Instant Pot figured out, we'll make that switch. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of spoiled to cooking rice not on the stove because the moisture balance is so much easier to maintain in the rice cooker. But a rice cooker you can cook soup in, you can do some baking in and that sort of thing.
We have a rice cooker that's a smart rice cooker thing. We also discovered several years ago at church doing men's breakfast, you can cook scrambled eggs in a rice cooker.
Yes, you can.
Which was pretty cool to discover. You just scramble them up. You can dump about 24 eggs in. It was a 15-cup rice cooker, and you just dump them in there. Tell it to start. Stir them every few minutes. Walk by and kind of stir it a little bit. Put the lid back on it. Takes about 10 minutes. They're done, and they're great.
They're good. They're good texture.
And the structure of a rice cooker helps keep them warm as you serve out at a men's breakfast, and even as they sit, and the people who are coming in early for Sunday school can hit them. It's just little things like that. But some of those small appliances are very helpful with keeping the kitchen cool, because while yes they do generate some heat, and you don't really want to run your air fryer where the heat output is blowing up under your bottom cabinets. Same with your rice cooker or your Instant Pot, where the steam will come out and steam up your cabinets and your cabinet facings. But we are blessed to have a separate laundry room, and we actually have several of those appliances, the bread machine for making bread, out there, such that they're not under cabinets. They're also not in the main living space of the house. So that's very helpful. Of course, the grill is also a great thing, especially if you've got a gas grill for quick moments. We've got gas and we've got charcoal. I do need to go fill up my charcoal bottle, fill up my gas
bottle, yeah.
Fill up my propane tanks to do for the grill. But those are some options, because that helps kind of reduce how much heat you're throwing into your home, which in turn also saves on your utility bills. It saves on your cooling. Whereas in the wintertime, you may want to cook in such a way that puts a bunch of heat into the house so that you don't have to run your heater. In the summer, you want to try to avoid that. And so you still want to eat healthy. You want to eat good.
But let me tell you, that roast that you would usually do in the oven on Sunday, you put it in that pressure cooker or in the Instant Pot, and oh my word,
it's also quicker. There's a reason they call it an Instant Pot, even though it takes may take 45 minutes to do something. It's 45 minutes instead of 4.5, 5 hours, and it's effective and it's good. And we got one on a Star Wars Day sale, and so it looks like R2-D2.
It's really cute. It's nice to get fun things on sale. Where we're saving money in the process.
And there's a little side note on that. It is okay. In fact, it's probably good for you to occasionally do things that are, yes, they're functional, but they're also fun.
Mm-hmm.
And not just everything always has to be 100% practical. We were fortunate in that the R2-D2 Instant Pot was actually on sale. It was cheaper than the same size normal one because of Star Wars Day. But honestly, the reason I even clicked on it and looked at it and thought about it was R2-D2, and I'd have paid $10 more for it just because it's R2-D2. Because I thought, it's fun. Let a little bit of fun and whimsy and lightheartedness drift into your life from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad thing.
Yep.
So.
And it brought a lot of laughter when we saw the box.
Yes.
He handed me the box. I opened it up and just died laughing. I mean, it was great.
So, and we look forward to cooking various things in it. We had pork that we did in it yesterday, which turned out pretty good.
Turned out really good.
Yeah,
It was
there's
quite delicious.
there's some spots that we're still learning what are the intricacies of cooking. And
We are, but there was that. So one of the things that we really like is Sam sells a big bag of Tyson's teriyaki chicken thighs.
Chicken
They're
thighs.
the flash frozen. We love those, but they take forever in the oven. I mean, they say 20 to 30 minutes, but I don't think we've ever gotten them done in 20 to 30 minutes. It just doesn't happen. So one day I thought, I'm just going to try to plop these down in the Instant Pot. They were done quickly, much more quickly than I actually set them for. I think they were done long before the timer went off, but it didn't overcook them. But it seared in that flavor really, really, really well. So, yeah, that was good.
Yep. So anyway, just the things that you're wanting to avoid, the larger the heating element, of course, also the less efficient something is. Mm-hmm. The larger
something
the
that's sealed
heating
is better.
element, so something that's sealed, or smaller and more direct, and then anything open. So sealed is better. Instant Pot seals, the rice cooker seals. We've got travel intended crock pots, the ones that have the lids that actually clamp down and have gaskets and all that, because we're Baptist, okay?
And we take crock pots
we actually have a crock pot that has a thick insulated thing to it intended to be that you can, hold it in your lap even after it's been running for hours. And so that seals in, that holds in some of the heat. You have to modify.
Really handy.
You have to modify some of your cooking because it cooks quicker because it's not radiating the heat out. But stuff that's sealed in instead of open topped.
Yeah, so even on the stove, I mean, you can heat up your kitchen real fast by cooking a whole bunch of stuff on your stovetop in the summer, and so
or cracking open a fryer. Oh, I just love to cook fried chicken in a cast iron skillet. You know how much you're gonna heat up your kitchen doing that? A lot. You want to fry some chicken in a cast iron skillet? Take it outside. Cook it on the burner on the side of your grill.
Yep.
That's a good way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. There's just some serious.
I forgot to.
Me too. There are some ways to do it. Just think about what are your options, and what are your ways to do that to reduce that. And sometimes it's it's 105 degrees outside.
I don't want to go cook outside.
So I'm not going to go, I can go cook outside and keep the kitchen from getting to 85 by standing outside in 105 degree, 110 degree heat index and cooking.
In all honesty, in the long run, you don't heat up your house, so you get to cool off quicker, but you still have to stand out in the heat.
Well, if you're going to do that, you should do those things, not stuff that is heavily interactive.
Right, stuff that you can set outside.
Hey, I'm going to take this pork loin, wrap it in foil, stick it out there on low. Take these baked potatoes, set them out there, whole thing's on low. I can set it out there. I'm going back in 30 minutes to get it, or back in 30 minutes to turn it, or whatever. So just some things there to look at. And like tomorrow, we'll grill. I believe we actually ended up with one package of ground buffalo, or ground bison. It's labeled as bison appropriately, and so we're probably going to make buffalo burgers, and that'll be. But we'll grill those outside, partly because I want to use my grill. Yeah. But anyway, So just do some things like that help kind of push what you're doing either help keep it contained, which is better for things overall, or move it out of range, out of reach. Get it, do the heat from outside, do what you can do, and just realize that that sometimes there's a little investment involved in saying, hey, I want to get this. And when you do that, look for stuff again that's a multitasker. Yeah. So, got any other thoughts on that?
No.
Also, eat lots of ice cream.
Ice cream sounds good.
I have to make a road trip to Brenham, Texas. I think that's a good use of our independence, is to go to Brenham, check out the Bluebell plant. So
they give tours and samples.
tours and samples, and so you walk on the tour, which is your exercise, and it cancels out the samples.
And Bluebell's just good.
It's also currently on sale at the Cash Saver here in Crossit. It might be a rocky road to fitness, but it's going to be a fun-filled one. Yes, I bought a half-gallon of Rocky Road yesterday.
So we do have, even trying to watch what we're eating. One day a week, we do go ahead and have sweets and enjoy it, and it makes it more enjoyable. So
this is true.
Psalm 6. For the choir director with stringed instruments, according to Sheminith, a psalm of David. Lord, do not rebuke me in your anger. Do not discipline me in your wrath. Be gracious to me, Lord, for I am weak. Heal me, Lord, for my bones are shaking. My whole being is shaken with terror. And you, Lord, how long? Turn, Lord, rescue me, save me because of your faithful love. For there is no remembrance of you in death. Who can thank you in Sheol? I am weary from my groaning. With my tears I dampen my bed and drench my couch every night. My eyes are swollen from grief. They grow old because of all my enemies. Depart from me, all evildoers, for the Lord has heard the sound of my weeping. The Lord has heard my plea for help. The Lord accepts my prayer. All my enemies will be ashamed and shake with terror. They will turn back and suddenly be disgraced. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for your compassionate love. Thank you for your care for us. I pray that as we celebrate this weekend, celebrate independence, that we will remember that it all comes back to the freedom that you've given us. May we declare that above all and show the world that your freedom is worth having. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.